where we came from.
Into the forever and beautiful sky.
Call me Sire.
Oh, okay.
I'm pleased to be here. As I gaze out at this crowd, I am reminded of my sole purpose in the universe: to take unevolved, disgusting, low-life scum such as yourselves and enhance you genetically to something less reprehensible. Thank you for inspiring me with how vomitous you all are. The bile in the back of my throat as I look at you is all the motivation I need to move forward and create the perfect species.
Okay, thanks, High Evolution.
I can't wait to dissect all of you and see what I can learn.
The High Evolutionary!
Welcome back, everyone. This will be my Guardians of the Galaxy 3 trailer video for the High Evolutionary. He's the main villain of the movie, and the clip there from Comic-Con kind of gives you a vibe for the character. He's meant to be like the next in their line of really bad space dads. He's being played by Chukwudi Iwuji, who you probably remember from the Peacemaker series. He's going to be the person who created Rocket, or turned him into the more humanoid version of Rocket, because he started out as a regular raccoon. He's also one of the most powerful villains that Marvel has introduced from the comics recently, so I'll explain what they've changed about his backstory and how he's connected to all the other characters in the MCU. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. We'll be getting more Marvel trailers soon, because Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania is coming out really soon, and it's the beginning of Marvel Phase 5, like the official beginning of Phase 5. Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is coming right after that. One of the big differences in Marvel Phase 5 versus Marvel Phase 4 is that they're going way more cosmic, heading into Avengers 5 Kang Dynasty and Avengers 6 Secret Wars, and introducing some of the weirder cosmic characters. Adam Warlock and the High Evolutionary are some of the best examples of that. I did a much bigger Adam Warlock video a while ago, so I'll link it in the description below. The reason why I wanted to do a High Evolutionary video is because Adam Warlock's origin is so connected to the origin of the High Evolutionary. It's also one of the reasons why James Gunn waited to introduce both of the characters in the same time in the same movie. High Evolutionary has been a big character in Marvel history. He's tied to Scarlet Witch, Quicksilver's backstory, but they changed that for the MCU just a little bit. They're making him more of a cosmic character exclusively. In the comics, he started out being a regular human. Originally, his base was in the Wundagore Mountains, this area in the mountain range where the Darkhold Temple was in the MCU, where Scarlet Witch was trying to pierce the multiverse. In the original Marvel comics, Magneto is the father of Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, but he was hiding his powers at the time. The locals found out about it, tried to kill him, and in order to protect his children, he sent his wife, who was pregnant with them, to the Wundagore Mountains, who was helped by Bova, one of the creations of High Evolutionary. Their mother died after the childbirth, but High Evolutionary sheltered them as babies for a little while before they went into their next adventure. Eventually, the High Evolutionary decided to take his base from the Wundagore Mountains into outer space. As I said, though, originally he started out just being a regular human scientist from Earth called Herbert Edgar Wyndham. There was an Easter egg for this during Guardians of the Galaxy 2. The planet that they crash on at the beginning of the movie was called Burhurt, an anagram of Herbert. They might change his backstory a little bit for the movies and just say that he was originally an alien who was humanoid from another planet. But he's similar to characters like Mr. Sinister from the X-Men in that they're both scientists who were obsessed with evolution, thus the name High Evolutionary. The only difference between him and a character like Mr. Sinister is that Mr. Sinister was primarily focused on the bloodline of Jean Grey and Cyclops in the X gene, whereas High Evolutionary had much larger ambitions for evolving the entire human race. He was kicked out of institutions on Earth for his radical ideas and then started wearing this armor because he'd experimented on his own body trying to evolve himself. He's super powerful in the comics. He can graft powers onto himself. He's gone up against characters like Galactus. In the trailer, it seems like he's also experimenting with dead celestial technology here. Like, this looks like the intestines of a celestial, like the asshole of a celestial. One of the only big differences, though, is that in the comics, his armor is red instead of purple, like you see here. He's primarily known for the way he evolves animals into beings like Rocket, taking regular animals, giving them more humanoid characteristics, trying to create the perfect life form, like giving Rocket, all these other animals, the ability to speak. So these weren't humans who were turned into animals, these were animals who were turned into humanoid hybrids. During the Comic-Con clip, he basically tells you what his whole thing is. I'm trying to experiment on things to create the perfect life form. One of his most famous things in the comics was creating a place called Counter-Earth, this place in the trailer that looks like a freakish version of Earth where all these humanoid hybrids are living. In the comics, Counter-Earth existed on the other side of the sun and in an alternate dimension so that it couldn't be seen by regular humans. But it was meant to be like his version of the Garden of Eden where he could just continue his experiments in seclusion. This is where his origin story starts to intersect with Adam Warlock's origin story. The High Evolutionary was the person who gave Adam Warlock the soul gem in his forehead, which Adam Warlock was very famous for in the comics. Like, he was a big part of Marvel's Infinity Gauntlet storyline, even though they didn't do that in Infinity War or Avengers Endgame. Adam Warlock was created by a group of villains on Earth called the Enclave. In the movies, it's the Sovereign, obviously from a different part of the galaxy, and that's why he's gold-colored. Eventually, he left that group and had adventures around the universe, just trying to learn as much as he could about everything. He's kind of like a version of Vision, born this extremely powerful being, but just trying to learn as much as he can, not knowing a whole lot. Being neither truly bad or truly good. Eventually, he discovers the High Evolutionary and Counter-Earth and helps him take down one of his creations that's gone rogue, taking over Counter-Earth, called Man-Beast. He gives him the Soul Gem as a huge power upgrade because Man-Beast is so powerful. While Adam Warlock is saving everyone on Counter-Earth, some of the people there give him his first name, Adam, which is a biblical reference, as in the biblical Adam and Eve from the Garden of Eden, because that was what Counter-Earth was meant to be. So there are all these biblical metaphors during this Counter-Earth saga. I'm not expecting them to get super religious with the movie version of this in the MCU. But as I said in the trailer, it seems like his version of Counter-Earth is actually based around the intestines of a dead Celestial or a giant cosmic creature, like the asshole of a Celestial. There's going to be all kinds of jokes about that when the movie comes out, because metaphorically, High Evolutionary is meant to be a giant asshole. One of the other big changes in the comics, too, is they're also making him the person who created Rocket in the MCU. There was an Easter egg for that during the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie in their big lineup. Like, you see Rocket's number here, that's the number of his experiment that the High Evolutionary gave him. He just refers to them by their experiment number.
Subject 89P13 calls itself Rocket, the result of illegal genetic and cybernetic experiments on a lower life form.
In the comics, it was just a group of random scientists called the Game Masters on a planet called Half-World that created him. They're just saying that the High Evolutionary controls the MCU version of Half-World. The otter that you see him hugging in the trailer is his girlfriend in the comics called Lila. I think is actually going to be voiced by Daniela Melchior, because James Gunn said that she had a role in the movie, but they haven't fully revealed who she's playing. What it seems like based on all the trailer footage, like you see the Guardians of the Galaxy in prison-looking uniforms, that's meant to be a parallel for the first movie. They're in this facility here that seems like it's controlled by the High Evolutionary. It seems like they're going to try and rescue all of these humanoid hybrids, experiments that he's been working on. It might have something to do with Rocket's former girlfriend Lila contacting him, asking for help, like some sort of distress beacon that they detect, leading them to return here because in the trailer he says, "I'm done running." Part of that is the idea that he's been running from the High Evolutionary this whole time. He escaped and never wanted to go back. He's been trying to stay as far away as possible this whole time. But James Gunn said that this movie, more than the other Guardians movies, is all about Rocket. Like, he is meant to be the main character of this movie. But a big part of his arc during the Guardians of the Galaxy movies is that he goes from being the most selfish character to the most selfless character. He has this big Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader moment where he's like, I must confront Vader in the High Evolutionary here. He has to come to terms and deal with his past trauma. The way that James Gunn talks about his origin story, he says that Rocket was just totally happy being a regular raccoon. He did not want to be evolved. He's actually really upset about what happened to him. And even though it seems like it would actually be pretty cool to get all those extra powers and giving Rocket the ability to talk, if you look at him, it actually looks like it was super painful and super traumatic physically and mentally for him. Which is part of the reason why in the early Guardians of the Galaxy movies, like the first and the second one, he's so salty as a character, even though he does genuinely care about the other characters eventually. They use his relationship with Groot and then Baby Groot, like the new version of Groot, to kind of show you how he's developed as a character. The way that James Gunn explained it is that during Infinity War, when everyone is being snapped and you hear the young version of Groot, like Baby Groot, who's now teenage Groot, crying out to him, saying, "I am Groot," in a really sad kind of way, what he was saying to Rocket was he was calling him father, like he thinks of Rocket as his father. And obviously in the MCU movie version of this, we have Adam Warlock versus the High Evolutionary. The whole idea that High Evolutionary wants to create the perfect life, and that's what Adam Warlock was created to be by the Sovereign, the perfect being. Even though they work together in the comics, they aren't like buddy-buddy or super best friends in the comics or anything like that, so I'm expecting their relationship in the movies to be a little more antagonistic. Originally in the comics, Adam Warlock was also created to be a villain, and I think that's part of his arc during the first movie too, is that he starts out trying to kill the Guardians of the Galaxy, like that was the whole reason why he was created. Eventually, while he's trying to chase them down and kill them, he crosses paths with the High Evolutionary, and then that leads to him slowly realizing that the Guardians aren't that bad, and probably winds up helping them take care of the High Evolutionary. Because I think part of the idea is that they do want to redeem Adam Warlock's character throughout the future MCU movies, maybe not entirely during this movie, but High Evolutionary will not find any kind of redemption. He just meant to be a really terrible person, like another bad Marvel dad, like Peter Quill's father, Ego the Living Planet, like Gamora Nebula's father, Thanos. And that's the other reason why James Gunn changed their backstories and made him Rocket's father, so to speak, in the movie. He's like the next in James Gunn's line of bad space dads. And that's the whole thing in the Guardians movies, is it's all about bad space dads. I don't think that they're going to kill him at the end of the movie in the same way that they're kind of ambiguous about what happened to Ego the Living Planet. Like, is he dead or is he still out there somewhere? Like, they're really, really hard to kill. Like, High Evolutionary is super powerful. So if he winds up coming back in a future movie, how do you want them to use High Evolutionary? Just because he does continue being a big character throughout all of Marvel Comics. Everyone click here for my big Guardians of the Galaxy 3 Adam Warlock video, and click here for my new Loki Season 2 trailer video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone stay safe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.